Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22 Studios, and today's guest is Dave Carroll from the Sons of Maxwell, Dave Carroll Music, and Dave, is there a separate name for your speaking engagements?
No, I'm either Sons of Maxwell or Dave Carroll. And just
Okay,
no tricks.
okay, awesome. I was
Yeah.
gonna say I've been listening to you since United Breaks Guitars.
Yeah.
Uh, my dad was a Fox News Network junkie, and so you were all over all the broadcast realm, and my dad was always a storyteller.
Yeah.
Probably not for the good, more of a facetious a lot of times on the storytelling, but
Yeah.
he was, I don't know, probably kindred spirits to a degree. He probably saw something in you, and he was always one to stick it to the man. And it was one of those, he got into you, and then he would nonstop play United Breaks guitars, and he bought a lot of put options in United that year.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and he was watching it, and then he started buying your albums, and he started sharing it with us kids, and I really got into the Sons of Maxwell, and then I kind of been following your career, and he's since passed, but it's one of those things. It actually until I started doing more research on you when you agreed to come on the show, and I was like, man, I did not realize that a lot of the questions I had for you, you answered in videos within the last 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
about being a storyteller. A lot of questions I had was like, who composes a lot of the music? Was it you or Don?
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an interesting career, and like just that story you just told me now, it reminds me how uh when you're younger, I guess, and you're right in the middle of you're busier than you are at other times. You if you have fans, you just take it for granted. It's like, yeah, they like my music, that's great, and you move on. But it's humbling, when you know that somebody's listened to your stuff. It made a difference in their life at some point, and then maybe like your father, he passes before I do, but he's no longer here. But at some point, a person that I didn't really know was taking my music in, and it made a difference in their life in some way, whether it's just a drive to keep them company on the road or something like that. But it's pretty cool to be able to do what I do.
yeah, I was just I was moving to San Antonio, Texas at the time that I was really getting into your music, and I had pulled up, and I was 23, about to be 23 years old, and Bold Frontier came on, and I'm looking at San Antonio, Texas, going, man, this is my new home, and it just that song was very fitting, and I sent you an email at that time, and it's it's kind of humbling when somebody actually that wrote a song that you were listening to that related to you actually replies, which which is very
Yeah.
unique.
Yeah, again, I've also always respected anybody who gave me time before that uh, you can justify being busy and staying in your own world, but the my heroes are the people that would have given me the time. Like I know if I would have stopped Harry Chapin to ask him a question, Harry Chapin would have answered my question, right? And so without ever knowing him, I just feel like that's the way he would have been. So that's the way I try to conduct myself as well, right?
And that's what I was going to ask you too, because it was years later that I really got into Harry Chapin. And so for the longest time, I had heard, what is it? And We Danced.
Yep.
I had
Harvard.
heard these
Yeah.
songs. And I'm like, all right, they're covering some songs. And I always thought Mr. Tanner was an original until I got into Harry Chapin. And then
Yeah.
I caught you and your brother doing it. I'm like, wait a minute. Harry Chapin was significantly before your time, so I was like, man, these guys must have just covered it, and so it's got me thinking. Like a lot of Harry Chapin stuff is storytelling and telling stories inspired by other people and people they knew in their lives and things like that. And um, it was just one of those. It was one of those things. So I kind of anticipated that maybe Harry Chapin was a big influence in your career.
Yeah, 100%. And I started playing guitar in university when I was going to Carleton University. And so I was a late bloomer and uh, the sing-along aspect. I was playing acoustic guitar and I was digging into people that I kind of wanted to sound like. And because I didn't have a band, I thought, how about if we just try and sing songs that work with just a guitar and just vocals. And so I was dialing into Gordon Lightfoot and Harry Chapin and Cat Stevens and people like that, where the song stands on its own and production, yes, could make it richer, but if it's just stripped down to the guitars, it's still a good song. And Harry Chapin, I remember hearing his live album for the first time, and he had a full band with him, but the songs were strong on their own. And it wasn't just the songs, it was the banter in between the songs that set up the songs, right? It's the stories within the stories and the personality behind it and inserting uh, context that makes the songs even better and more memorable. And so I thought, I want to be like that when I grow up, and I'm still saying that.
Yeah, well, we never truly grow up, do we? We
No, no.
I
Everybody's
was
a
just
work in progress right till the end, I think.
oh yeah, and that was one of those things that like really sold me on Jim Croce back in the day.
Yeah, he was
You
another
know,
one.
yeah, he's just you just listen to some of his live at Harper College and things like that, and he's telling the stories about how he wrote the song, whether it was throwing up in a hotel room, but or what have you, and just in giving the insight to how he came up with the song, as well as having a lot of humor to it too. Because I know in some of your songs, you listen to them and you go from serious song, and then you get one where I'm drawing a blank on the name of the song, but you're following this woman, and I think your brother sings it, but
Yeah,
you
exactly.
the woman that you met at the bar last night, she
Yeah.
told you something with her eyes, and then next thing you know, it's like the song is progressively getting more uh, every breath you take by the
Yeah,
police, kind of
little
in a way.
creepy, right? It starts off like it's a nice, lighthearted guy sees girl, falls in love, and
Right.
but I think the song would be a little bit tougher to pull off today because people are more aware how crazy some people are. But at the time when I wrote the song, it was just sort of it would be a little creepy if a person was that way. And that was actually a three-way right in Nashville, that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was a co-write, but yeah, that one we haven't played a whole lot. It's you went grabbed a deep cut right there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's one of those things that like you took an idea that was like every guy has probably been there in their youth, right? They see this girl across the bar. She's so pretty that they stick in your head, right? Like the lady from LA.
Yeah,
They stick in your head. You can't kind of shake it, and you kind of went to its inevitable conclusion in one person's scenario, right? Like, well, I can either forget about this like most people do, and then you see the next pretty girl, and then maybe that's the girl you put a ring on the finger, and then you
yeah,
never think about that girl ever again that you saw in that bar one time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
But I think everyone's kind of like that. That you see somebody that's extra special, and there was there was a girl I never really knew, but she was in the next building over when I was in Carleton University. Her name was Tara, and she lived on the 10th floor, and so she was Tara from 10th. And I never had the guts to go ask her out or anything like that. So she just was always Tara from 10th, and everybody's got a Tara from
uh,
10th, I think.
yeah, right. No, it's and that's I've tried writing songs in the past. And that was actually some of the questions I was going to have for you was like so a lot of the storytelling that's I'm assuming that's a lot of you because I in some of a lot of your brother's stuff he goes off and he does a lot of covers and he likes that very baritone that Sinatra feel.
Mm,
um he's multiple prospectors in the prospectors songs, right? Like he's
yeah,
that he is Mr. Tanner, right? He's the fall on your knees kind of the
yeah, yeah. So he in Prospectors, that was actually we're from a mining town called Timmins, Ontario, and so
okay.
those are two uh, one well-known prospector who found a gold mine, Sandy McIntyre, and then a lesser-known prospector named Reuben Daigle, who was standing right on top of a giant gold mine, but he never found it. He ended up just sort of becoming obscure, and that's the name of the game for prospecting. So we each took a role in that one. And made it sort of a song that only a duo could do, right? If everybody takes one character. But yeah,
Right.
Don's he's actually really talented in that Frank Sinatra vein. He's got a CD called Valentine Delivered, and it's all Frank Sinatra Rat Pack era covers with
Okay.
full horn section band. It's an amazing record. Just was sort of a side project for him.
Gotcha. So that's yeah, it's kind of like when Rod Stewart went off on his own and started doing all those the really old some of the love ballads,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah. So if Don was going to be reincarnated, he'd probably also want a time machine and go back to the 60s and be in the Rat Pack. That's That's
Okay.
where he should be. Yeah.
So, and then, so following some of your discography, right? Like you guys kind of ebbed and flowed through this. So you guys started together as the Sons of Maxwell, and then it seems like you kind of went off and did your own things, and then you come back from time to kind of do collaboratives. Is that a
Well, it's more consistent than that. We started off as the Dawn and Dave show, and
okay?
so that's how we started. And we were going to school at Carleton University in Ottawa. We had a little thing going on in Ottawa. That's where we got our start playing pub shows. And East Coast music, which we were singing a lot of at the time, started to get really popular across the country, but it started here in Halifax or in the East Coast. And so we decided we would move from Ottawa to the East Coast. And we were playing a show, I don't know, the year before we moved here. And people came in and they were watching the show for like 20 minutes. And we heard them say, they're not funny. So they thought they were getting a comedy show, right? So we figured we better change our name. So
Oh, okay.
that's how came up with Sons of Maxwell, named after our dad. And it had sort of that Celtic-y feel and history and said brothers and stuff like that. So that's why we came up with the name. And then we moved here in about 1994 and never looked back. So even with my solo stuff, I've got three solo CDs, but those that's a period for sure where I did my own thing because Don and I were going to become full-time firefighters in around 2006, and he ended up getting hired. 1,000 people applied. We both applied. He got hired and I didn't, and but I got put on a list for the next year. And they said in a year's time we'll hire more people and you'll probably be on that list. So Don started working as a firefighter, and in that intervening year, I wrote United Breaks Guitars as a side hustle project that I never thought would amount to anything. It was just like I'm going to stay busy, and I'm going to, I guess, bite back at United for breaking my guitar and see
Right. Oh, yeah.
just see what happens. So then that went crazy and opened up other doors for me. So I've done three solo recordings. Don's done one in the middle of all that, but we've never really stopped being Sons of Maxwell, and we still play shows and we just play less frequently, and we really don't go on the road like we used to before.
Is he still a firefighter?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So he's
So this is his side gig then.
sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's yeah. We went for well over 20 years of not needing a side gig. The side gig meaning the job. So
Right.
the music's still the main passion. It's just we can get our teeth cleaned with other twice a year now with benefits or things like that, that
Sure.
don't come
Right.
with the music business.
Yeah, so I followed you as an artist, and I didn't realize that you were doing speaking gigs until I started doing some more research. I was like, man, I thought I was following you, and I was kind of following the music side of it. And
Yeah.
then I actually went to your website because I was like, well, I don't need to buy any of his new albums. I have a large collection of his albums, and the other ones are paid for with Spotify Premium and stuff. So I just was under the assumption of that, and I started scrolling through just all the your speaking gigs, how you relate like customer service,
Mm.
how we're missing a lot of compassion in the customer service industry, and how United Breaks Guitars really kind of impacted your career. Um,
It changed my life completely because at that point I was thinking about getting out of the music business because I didn't. My wife was pregnant with her first son, Flynn, when Dawn and I were thinking about becoming full-time firefighters, and we had every high and low you can have in the music business, just not close enough to get the momentum that you need to really build a career. So we'd play with the symphony, and then we would have these great shows, and then we'd play a few pub shows, and then you'd have some bad gigs over here, and then you'd have to go play a bar in Alberta or something. And I didn't want to be 1,000 miles from home, calling home to see how my wife's raising our son, waiting for another good gig in between the ones that get you through and stuff. So I thought maybe it's time to hang up the full-time musician hat and do that. And then United came along, and uh, I did get the call to be a firefighter, and I had the option of having the certainty of doing that. And a lot of people were saying this is going to be your 15 minutes of fame, get some t-shirts printed and sell them for the next few weeks and then go back to being a regular musician. But some other people had seen some opportunities that no one else was seeing, right? The music industry people thought this is only a music story, and the truth is it's not really a music story at all. And the music industry pretty much ignored United Breaks Guitars because in 2009, social media wasn't a revenue generating thing. It was seemed like it was a loss leader, no revenue to be had. So the music industry, the labels, no one really cared about it. They didn't see the potential.
they
Of
viewed it like
course,
Napster.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I had this experience where that video became the number one music video in the world for an entire month on YouTube. And people anywhere in the world, probably today, I could probably go to, if there were a room full of people in any part of the world, somebody will have seen that video and say, "Oh, you're that guy." And that's a great entry into anything else you want to do if you've got something like that of note. So, of course, the music industry is now on board and everybody is all about social media and here's watch my videos and that sort of thing. It's not monetized the same way. And it's very valuable now. But at the time, it wasn't. So early on in the first month or so of the video going viral, my phone was ringing off the hook, and almost none of the calls were from the music industry. It was all from somebody else, someone saying, "Can you come speak at my event?" And I'd never done any speaking before. But it turns out that it's not that different from performing. And I saw it as you're on a stage, you have a captive audience for a short amount of time. They're typically very listening very closely, which is better than some music gigs where you have to compete for attention. And I have a certain amount of time to take people through an experience. So I tell stories, and some of them are supposed to get your emotions going, like uh, more uh, songs about family and loss or lighthearted moments. And you take people through an emotional ride. So by the end of it, they've had an experience and you've sort of changed their life in some way with a story, with a message. And in my case, as a speaker, my message is often about the power of storytelling, that every one of us has a story, that we maybe don't always have the right approach to telling stories, so we can improve our craft, but you can become a better storyteller. You can change the world with your story. And that for business audiences, customer service and customer experience means that everyone in your organization needs to be pulling in the same direction for you to have a successful brand. You can't have customers that are uh, writing songs, viral songs about your airline, but pat yourself on the back because your employees seem happy, or you just can't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's turned into an opportunity where I've traveled to 34 countries as a speaker, talking about customer service and branding and social media and storytelling and doing the right thing. And I get to play music on either end of it. So by the time I leave, people know that they have just seen a singer-songwriter who also speaks rather than a speaker who has a side hustle of music. I identify as a songwriter and a storyteller, and that's what I want people to remember when they see me.
Yeah, that's and that was something I always picked up from your music was that like, man, there's just a lot of stories here. And that's what led me to, man, Harry Chapin must have had a big, huge telling in this. And if you look back, I mean, the oldest craft is, stories. Nobody, you don't remember George Washington for, some of his battles and things like that unless it's in song form
Hmm.
or what have you. You remember every classroom in the United States anyways, we're taught about a cherry tree, right? Something stupid and trivial, but it's stood the test of time. There's something simplistic about, if you can get your craft and your story down to something simple and it's something that speaks and resonates with a lot of people, you can make that story or that song or what have you last the trials and tribulations of time. And that's
Yeah, 100%. And when I sort of teach the storytelling craft to businesses and say, how is your storytelling? Everyone is a storyteller, and if you want to make a connection with anyone, be it a customer or employees or your suppliers or the shareholders, you got to tell a story. And the biggest thing that people do wrong, I think, in storytelling is uh, they forget the authenticity piece. You have to speak from the heart, and it's not just a saying. You have to speak from the heart because that's where stories are felt and experienced in the heart. It's charts and graphs are up here, but a good story starts and ends and is received in the heart area, right? So you have to speak in a way that people can relate to. And that means you have to keep your song simple and broad. And guess what? I'm a songwriter, and that's what songwriters do, right? You write a song that you put on the radio that your dad could identify with, and maybe a 10-year-old girl in Winnipeg, Manitoba could maybe get the same message by casting a wider net. But if you try to be too smart, that only the people who really understand that line can get it, then you've missed the point of songwriting. I think you should be saying things that hit you at an emotional level.
I was going to say, I think there was a comedian, Daniel Tosh, when he was in his hit to fame. He would do that with an audience. He would hit with a wide spreading joke, and then he would the set would take you down to a narrow pathway that one guy in the audience followed him the whole way. And so it was the what is it, the peanuts bring him in and the beer keeps him drinking. It was kind of one of those
Yeah.
funnel methods.
I never heard that, but that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it the beer brings him in and the peanuts keep him drinking? I think that's what it is. But yeah, you cast him with a wide net, and then eventually you get the one guy. But even just people on the outside that are recognizing this funnel are also staying to enjoy watching. Wow, he hit that guy. That guy knows what he's talking about. And
Yep.
so
Yeah, and as a songwriter, I like layering um, in the lyrics for people that want to peel back the layers a little bit. There's something there for you, but if you just want to take it in on a superficial level, that's completely cool too. And if you craft it right, you should be able to have both things, right? For the people that really want to get into lyrics, um, you can plant some little hidden gems for them if they want to
yeah,
take a look.
and as I listen to songs multiple times, that's when you start really getting into it. I was gonna say Oceanside. That was that was a fan favorite when I was younger and drinking, because you could kind of just put it on and it was upbeat enough where you could have a couple drinks with your friends, and it's talking about having a couple drinks with your friends and playing music by the fire, and as long as Tom has his fiddle, you
Yeah,
know. Um, but then you
yeah.
listen to it enough times and you resonate with some of the characters there. Like, no, I have a friend like, was it Patrick O'Keefe? Um,
Uh, what in my song?
yeah, is it
Not Oceanside, eh?
uh,
It's Tom.
Tom
Uh,
Keefe? So as Tom has his fiddle, and if my who's
oh,
it? My friend
my friend Alex Keith.
Alex Keith.
So that's a
Okay.
little bit of a hidden one for people that don't understand Nova Scotia culture and stuff. But there's a brewery called Alexander Keith's Brewery,
Oh,
and so I'm seeking relief with my friend Alex Keith, right?
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
See, I didn't even
yeah.
go down that rabbit hole. I
So
just
so I left it that way for people who would never know that Alexander Keith's is a beer, and it was just you drink so much of it that you're on a first name basis, and you
okay,
call him
right,
Alex,
okay.
right? Yeah, and but yeah,
And a lot of your music is very Celtic in nature, right? So a lot, like at the time I was drinking with a couple of my friends, and one of our friends who was significantly older, retired from the IRS, things like that. His name was Christopher Keefe, but he always went, his name was O'Keefe, but he always just went by Keefe. And so that
yeah.
in our heads we're like, all right, it's Celtic music, it's he's probably got a friend named Alex just like the rest of us, but just completely misheard your lyrics and just went with it.
But I wasn't just making up. So I brought some truth into that song. So that song is right on the nose. There's really no tricks to it. It's just a song about having a good
Sure.
time with your friends and having some beers. But when I was writing that song, uh, I I remembered this was before we moved out east, but there were a lot of East Coast people coming into this bar because that music was resonating with everybody. And I just remembered we were playing some fast song, and then one of the people who liked our stuff, Tom McCarthy, was walking past the bar on my right to do a 90 to come into the front door. And I just remember that image because he reminded me of everything good about the East Coast and East Coast music because he's just a happy-go-lucky guy walking almost like the girls that go dancing on the dance floor. Some people wait till they get to the dance floor to dance. Some start dancing from the minute they stand up to they dance to the dance floor and then they continue dancing. And some people have a special dance before they get to the dance floor, then they start dancing, right? And he uh he just sort of broke into a whistle and a jig sort of a thing on the way in. And so he doesn't play fiddle, and I've seen him since, but he knows that he's the Tom in Oceanside again because he comes to me, he brings out the essence of the song, and I thought of that, and that's how I get
Well,
into it. I started whether I say their name or really make them real people in a song. I'm imagining something that's given me that vision to go in a direction, right? So Tom McCarthy
which
is the real Tom in the Oceanside
gotcha.
again.
Which is I mean, the fiddle in and of itself is in a lot of music is the lure to the dance, right?
Yes.
It's the mistress that takes you to the dance. So um it was very very fitting, no, to just to hear how you explain where the song came from. um because I as I'm sitting here listening to the music over the last couple weeks, I'm sitting here like, man, I was like, because every one of these songs comes from somewhere. You've explained to me Prospectors, like The Neighborhood.
Hmm.
So you did the album called The Neighborhood, but then you did a song called The Neighborhood, which
Right.
which to me it spoke to me because I had a lot of friends that around the time I'm listening to your music, and some of them are just selling weed to get by, and that was their hustle if they weren't working at the local like Burger King, right? Like they were. And nobody robbing liquor stores at the time that I was friends with, anyways. But it was one of those. You wrote this song, and it was very true of a lot of my friends. They all had friends that were more nefarious in nature, and almost everybody that I knew came from a broken home. And so that's kind of what that's how the neighborhood spoke to me. But I like, what was your inspiration for a song like that?
Uh, I'm a music first guy, so I just remember having playing the chords in a simple three chord song, very much like a La Bamba feel.
Okay. Yeah.
And that to me sort of sounds like a celebration, right? Everyone likes La Bamba, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And so I thought on the lyrics, how about turning the lyrics on the head, have this really upbeat celebratory song with a serious story underneath. What would that sound like? And the first line just came to me. Liquor store was hit last evening, and the
Right.
fugitive is heading south. Then you keep asking questions. Okay, who's the fugitive? What does it look like? Okay, if it's a woman, what does she look like? She had a gold tooth in her mouth and a red bandana. And I remember asking how she got there. And so I wrote three stories of three examples of how a neighborhood uh, sort of breaks down. And the part that a lot of people probably don't realize, it sounds like you might, but do you know that the three people are related in the song?
Yes, they came
That,
from the broken house for the guy who beats his
right.
wife.
Yeah. So not everybody gets that, right? And so it starts with a girl, then there's a guy that beats his wife, and then there's another kid that's selling drugs and stuff like that. And at the end, I say he's got a drug dealing son and a daughter on the run, but there's more
Right.
where they came from. And that sort of I thought it was a neat way to sort of tie it all together, and that this is a systemic problem. It's not just isolated, right? And so that's what the song kind of an approach it had. And then I remember we were just getting it started, and we were playing as a duo, just me and Don, one guitar, and we had a nice group of people dancing because everyone likes to dance to La Bamba in a bar. And there was a girl just having a great time. And at the end of the song, though, she had been listening to the lyrics, and she says, "That's not a happy song." Like I had tricked her into dancing and having a good time. But I thought that's success, right?
I mean, that's how society works, though, right? Like you have these degradatory things in your society that all of a sudden, by the time you're done dancing, you realize that your house is a smoldering ash heap. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slow moving process. You're not sitting there watching the flames, but it is slowly disintegrating around you. And so, I mean, that actually is reminiscent of the song in its keys. Just that, you know,
Yeah. And then in terms of records, The Neighborhood is one of my favorite records. That's we had done uh, Bold Frontier before that, so that was kind of our second stab at stuff. And the some of the songs did okay for us, I guess. There was definitely a lift, and we got started getting noticed in the East Coast music industry with that record. But that's probably my favorite album cover too, where Don and I are sitting, leaning against an area in Halifax that is an area of transition and was at the time, and it was kind of like a rundown wall. It was a small building, but it looks like we're just on a wall, and it looks like we're having a conversation. I'm laughing, and Don's scratching his neck. We were taking all sorts of shots that weren't coming out as maybe the ones we wanted, but at one point, Don doesn't like spiders, and he leans over to me and he says, "I think I got a freaking spider on my neck," and click, and that was the cover shot of the whole neighborhood CD. And so sometimes it's you can pose and do what you're told for a cover shot, but it's the little moments, right, that end up being the ones that
now
capture you.
the spelling of neighborhood, was that just because you guys are from, like, is it the French elements in the word, how you guys spell neighborhood?
Yeah, that's
Is that
The Canadian British English, right?
okay?
Yeah.
That's yeah. It's like center, right? When you switch the R and the E.
Yeah. So it's the extra U we put in there, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That's what caught my eye the other day when I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of one thing I think that Canadians like to do. It's like when you you make music that sounds like any American band, but it's kind of like your little message to say, nope, we're Canadian, right?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, the
We're a
Neil
little
Young,
different. Yeah.
right, the Neil Young, the Brian Adams,
Yeah.
twists to things, right?
We had extra letters to words that make no difference to the words because somebody else told us to. That's
Uh,
what makes us Canadian.
Other than a call sign, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I was gonna say the album art from Among the Living caught
Yep.
me the other day because I was looking at it and I'm like, what was the purpose of this? You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden I realized that half the people in everybody but you and Don were mannequins.
No, there were a couple humans in there too.
They
Uh,
were
yep.
okay.
But there was mannequins. They were all supposed to look like mannequins, and we didn't have enough mannequins, so we got my ex-girlfriend and another girl to stand there.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, yeah.
It
So they
took
had
me a
to look
minute. And
mannequin.
then I was like, okay, that's where he's going with it, Among the Living. All right, so because everybody else is just
Sort of plastic and going along with the flow and being put into
not being an
positions that
individual,
really isn't what they want. They just that society or whatever puts people in and creates a form around you that might not be your own idea.
right? Yeah. Man, I was looking for Bold Frontier, and I think I mentioned this to you before we started recording. I was looking for Bold Frontier, and I've got it on a desktop somewhere,
Mhm.
and I searched it on Google to find out, okay, where's a good place that I can listen to this? And your website pops up number two because Amazon popped up number one, and there is one vendor selling a Bold Frontier CD on there, and it'll arrive by Saturday if you're willing to pay for the one that's left in inventory at 176.36. Just throwing that out
Holy.
there. Just
So I'm happy to say that we have shelves of CDs that no one really buys anymore, and I have some Bold Frontier overstock. I can send you a case of 50.
I was gonna say I I just got to dig out an old desktop and plug it in. But I just figured you'd be interested to know that you might want to restock this guy. I'm sure you could sell him for 150 a piece, and then this guy can get his $25 profit on
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Um. Now, hold on. What was your
Hmm.
inspiration for that song?
Based on largely a true story, my dad, or the Max and Sons of Maxwell, is still around. He's just turned 83 today, actually, and
Okay.
he he's always been a great guy for a lot of reasons, but one thing that he's always I've admired about him is that when somebody's sick or in the hospital, he comes early and he comes often. If you're there for a long time, he just doesn't come once and never show up again. He shows up often. So he had a friend that had MS, and she would have been probably 40 and living in a nursing home, and nursing homes are overwhelmed and stuff. So they put people that probably shouldn't belong together in certain rooms or whatever. And but
Yeah.
he would go and visit his friend Mary all the time, and he's a he's a musician. He plays piano, but he never touches the black keys. Everything's in the key of C. It's
Right.
just easier. And so they had a piano in the common room, and he was playing piano for his friend Mary and anybody else who was listening. And he was worked at the mine as an electrician, so he's playing the piano and he sees a man come in that he recognized from the mine. He knew him, and that man was coming to visit his wife who had Alzheimer's. So his wife was in her nightgown at like 5 o'clock at supper time, and so he put his lunch pail down, and whatever my dad was playing, the man asked his wife to dance, and they had a dance together in the common room to whatever he was playing. And so that sort of story was the inspiration about a man coming to visit his wife who has Alzheimer's in a nursing home, and and then the story branches
Was
off
her
from
name
there.
Abby?
No,
No.
no. So,
Okay.
so
Just
that was just made up, and
sure.
I started to get in the idea, what would it be like to have your life partner that you're coming to visit? And this, in my story, it's later on in life, and you've been together 40 years, and now you're coming in. You probably may have promised somebody, I'll never put you in a nursing home. And that's what this character, from the man's perspective, is having to deal with, where he's getting older himself. He can't take care of his wife, and he's got to go and visit her on a regular basis and remind her of all the things that they did together and keep telling the stories over and over again. And yeah, it's an emotional song. I almost didn't finish it because it doesn't have a real happy ending, right? But that's the reality that everybody's
Right.
facing. You have people in that. And it turned out later that years later that the Notebook the
I
award-winning movie came out, and people were my phone or whatever it was lighting up from people saying they should have had your song in the thing because it's basically the same
yeah,
story.
no, that's I was going to say that your song must have come out before that, and I, 'cause just based on the era, what did the Notebook come out in like 2008?
Yeah, so I think I wrote that song in 99 or 2000.
Right. Yeah. So, um, and that's a lot of like, is that a deterrent? Well, I mean, maybe not a deterrent, but does that kind of is that a depressing thought to think about that like just every like the guys that are big out there, right, in the industry,
Mm.
and they're writing these, Red Solo Cup, I'll drink you up, and they're all these party songs like Oceanside and all these other, and they're all uplifting songs, but what in life, like, yeah, you want a reprieve from the hold-ons, right, the deeper issues, but at some point you have to address them. And so where your songs kind of delve into this quite often, like, it doesn't make them popular as often as those upbeat songs. And is that like a does that deter you from trying to write them?
No, not at all. I find as a songwriter, it's kind of like you are uh, milliseconds ahead of the audience, but still still an audience member to your own creation sometimes, right? When you're really in the inspiration, it really to me feels like these ideas are being just presented to you and you just write them down. So it's moving as an audience person maybe to hear a song that really gets you, but when you write them, sometimes you're getting yourself too. It's not like, look at this line I just created. It's like, where the hell did that come from? This is great, and you get the tingles, and it makes you want to keep going. And sometimes it's really frustrating that you keep working away at a line that you know could be better, but you don't know what it's going to be yet. But you stay
Right.
with it, and you get rewarded with a gift of a song that punches above its weight, and it's better than what you did last time, and that keeps you going. So the the stock songs, those ones I find I've never really pursued a hit on the radio like that by writing those type of songs. I when I do them, it's because I like them and I want them for that moment. But
You just
for if I had to sit there every day and come and here's a toolbox of 40 words that you need to have like a tailgate, beer, whiskey, uh,
dying dog,
fighting, yeah, all those things.
girlfriend leaving you.
Those are the only things I could draw from, and I had to write that same song every day, like a Nashville maybe uh, publishing company writer. I don't know if I'd get into it.
Right. Okay.
I'd like the
I'm
money,
sorry
but
to
I don't know if I could get into it artistically, right?
right, right. I'm sorry. I feel like that the line of questioning just took a dark path. You know what I mean? Do you ever think about the world like as if you were Abby or the husband, and you're just like, man, life is so fleeting, and sometimes it gets you down, and so sometimes you don't even want to address those topics, but then you do, and like you said, it's not for your betterment. It's or it's not for financial gain. It's because there's a muse working through you, right? And you've
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
given it to the world.
but there's a business to it. I'm not against making money, and I love that I've been able to basically make a living with my music instead of having to get a job in a cubicle. That would be like the worst thing for me, right?
Right.
To have to do that kind of thing, knowing what it feels like to do what I do. So uh, I'm careful about the words I use, and sometimes I'll say this. If I could say this, but I'm careful. I wouldn't want to offend people unnecessarily just to rub people the wrong way. I would probably smooth the edges of certain things to make the song more appealing and cast the net a little bit wider,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I
there's definitely
compromise.
yeah, there's definitely a genre out there for that. I was gonna say, like in America, we've got a lot of pro-Trumpers and we got a lot of anti-Trumpers, and you get those people that I don't see too many. There's not too many anti-Trump songs, but there's a lot of pro-Trump songs and attacking the other side. And like, I'll listen to them, but I'm not a big fan just because like you said, they're not as and they don't last as long. They're a political in the moment
No.
song, and they don't last the stand of time because it's like what happens at the next election, what happens at the next thing, and then you don't really they're a fleeting impulse in the moment, and
Yeah.
they're not relatable to everybody.
And that's a good point about the fleeting. You can write a song that gets people fired up or morally outraged, but that's what social media does, right? It gets people literally morally outraged about something because the algorithms have discovered that moral outrage is the number one way to hold people's attention, and attention is the commodity of today. That's the gold of yesterday, right? And
Right.
so uh, yeah, so
Social media definitely lives in the hippocampus. It's just
yeah, yeah. And
if you
if you want to get your amygdala fired up, that's where rational thought doesn't exist. It's all people don't like being called irrational, but so they're changing the name to pre-rational thinking, right? But it's really irrational thinking, and you can motivate people to get into something with those easy Pavlovian tricks, right? But if
right,
you
dopamine hit, click, click, click,
but if
click.
you can get people thinking about something and move them emotionally in a way, it'll last for forever, right? It'll be a song that maybe it never becomes a hit, but it could be something that people want to listen to or go back to, maybe play at their funeral, that sort of thing. Like that's a big honor when you're writing a song and somebody says, "My mom or dad listened to this and they asked that this be played at their funeral." That's saying they for the most important one of the most important times in their life, how they get celebrated and remembered, they want to anchor your song to that. That's not a small thing, right?
I was gonna say when my dad passed away, he did his living wake years before because he wanted to see what people were going to say about him because he was
Who
one of
showed
those
up?
unique. And so it ended up being a roast. He sat in a casket while we roasted him.
Did he?
Yeah, he sat in a
That's
casket.
incredible.
Yeah. So, and then he finally passed away, and we did do a wake. Against his wishes, I'm sure. He was a big guy. I don't want to have a wake. Just put me in a dumpster somewhere. That was kind of his
Yeah,
philosophy.
yeah.
Um, but your music ended up making the playlist, and we still have it. We procured songs that he would listen to through his divorce, and songs that we remember him listening to over and over again. And there was a bunch of your songs that made it to the Spotify playlist for my father. So
That's incredible.
yeah. So
But that's hilarious that he actually went in a coffin and did that.
oh yeah, no, and I
That's
I still.
unbelievable.
I inherited the coffin, so it's because he wanted to be cremated. So it was one of those. He's like, "I'm not going to have any use for it. It's yours when I die." Like, great, Dad, thanks. Got a
Yeah,
great Halloween gimmick here for
yeah.
put it out on the porch. But yeah, no, it's so within obviously different stories and your perception of human nature and things like that, and you seeing people in the room, whether it be people being fiddle drawn over to a dance floor, or hearing a story from your father about a woman named Abby, or a fictitious woman named Abby related to a real person dying of Alzheimer's. What I mean, that's the inspiration for them. And I guess I'm a kindred spirit as well. Like I could probably come up with my own stories in my life. If you were to give somebody advice on like how do you how do you do the composition? Like how do you make not all your I was speaking with a friend yesterday actually about this upcoming conversation, and we talked about it. I said, how does a band just get together and not have 10 songs that all sound alike? Like how do you not have the same tune in your head playing over and over again? How do you differentiate that, I suppose?
Uh, well, for me, I've always been, like I said, I'm a music first guy.
Okay.
So I I consciously play with different rhythm patterns and different chord structures, and sometimes you can do just like a 1 4 5, like a La Bamba, da da da
Right.
da da da, da, and then go backwards. But sometimes that's three chords. So a fourth chord can make a difference and make it a four-chord song, or uh, sometimes you walk ups and like transitioning from chords in an escalating way that pulse you up. Some songs have no chorus. I deliberately one of my better songs, I think, is a song called Average Man, and it has no chorus in it. And I consciously said I want to write a song like The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot that has no choruses. Each verse is a self-contained story, but it leads to the next one, and you stitch them all together, and you've got the story of a man's life, and or a story, a longer story. I chose, I'll instead of the story of a sinking ship, I'll do a story of a man's life from a young man to an old man, where and every verse gives a little uh, breadcrumb about who he is and what he stands for, and
Well,
he's imperfect, right? He wants to go to college, but he doesn't have the money to do it, so he becomes a working man, ends up marrying young and cheating on his wife, and she catches him, so gets divorced, has to be a sort of a single dad, seeing his kids every other weekend, and gets married again. And spoiler alert, he dies at the end. And
Yeah.
but the whole idea of the song is he's an average man, no highs or lows in his life, and so there's no chorus in the song. Chorus would be a big explosion of energy, a big boost, and this guy's an average life. So it has no thing, but he's no chorus. But it
But he survives, and just like the viewer, or the listener, they survive the song, right? They just kind of make their way through it to the end,
And that was
regardless
kind
of
of the joke is that I have all songwriters probably have an inner circle of people they trust with new things before they share it with the world. And I finished that song and I sent the demo to a bunch of people in my inner circle, and it was amazing how many of my high school friends called back almost with pride, and they said, "That average man song, that's about me, right? Divorce, cheating, like not treating yourself great."
Right, right. No, that is a lot of people's, follies, right? Like their life is full of follies, and that's kind of,
Yeah.
but it still goes on and it progresses.
Yeah, and I find the most interesting people in life are the imperfect ones, right? The ones who do the right thing sometimes. Sometimes they fall, and what they learn out of it and the redemption or the lack of redemption, they make for the most interesting characters.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. The diamonds wouldn't be worth as much if you couldn't find them in the rough.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Yep. And a song, if everyone was always perfect, there would be no tension. And every story has to have tension. Every good story has tension. So imperfect characters are the people I like to hang out with the most. I consider myself definitely imperfect, and so I can insert myself into a lot of stories and it be authentic.
You so if I'm understanding this, I guess from a layman, right? I've got a wall full of guitars that I've actually kind of cleaned up. My son's taking guitar lessons now. I play the violin with my daughter when she used to go to lessons, and um other instruments I've bought for other kids that I have, and they just, when they retire them, they come back to me because they're like, I don't play this ukulele anymore, Dad, so it just gets hung up on the wall.
Really?
Um
Yeah.
yeah, and I've got my series of I've got a banjo over there I'd love to play. I've just never found the time to play it, so it's just the wish list of instruments. Um
My
but
banjo torments me too. I look at it sometimes and I think it laughs at me.
man, I wish I could play you. We
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah.
um I Yeah, so that was always my biggest issue with it. It's like I could sit down and write lyrics or have an idea for a song, and it was always, a lot of my songs, a lot of things just never came to fruition. They're always just written down in half notes, and not from a musical perspective, but like half like physical handwritten notes of what the song should entail, and then it never came to fruition. And so what you're kind of saying is you're taking some basic chords on maybe one instrument, like the guitar, right? Music first, and you're progressing your way through, like kind of playing a chess match, right? You're
Mm.
making different moves on it, and then from there you can add other instruments based on the move of the game. And so that this way the song never ends up in the same place. Is that
Yeah. So consciously, I guess if I'm playing music first, I would just completely avoid the same tempo, the same rhythm pattern, and uh, chord moves. If to
and
like to
then
really simplify it, if uh, if I if you were if your song was like a
oh boy, we're gonna
everyone's
jam
getting
today.
four beats, right? And
Yeah,
and so your next song you probably shouldn't hold for four beats, maybe change after two.
right, right. Okay.
So that instantly makes it different. There's only so many notes in the scale and only so many chords, so you have to, if you want it to be different, you have to change up. You can change up the pattern, you can change up the rhythm, and uh, the length of the how many syllables in the words and how long you hold them. So if a high energy song like The Neighborhood, it's a liquor store was hit last evening. It's
Right.
it's bumping along fast, but if you had a different song, you could keep the same beat but have longer words that just change everything. It juxtaposes it really well.
Right. Okay. And so I'm that's the composition side for like novices like myself, those are the things that were always just, I don't know, maybe they always seem like they're out of reach. Somebody like you could probably sit down and just bang out, what a song should be. Now, the harder part is coming up with what's the story behind it, right?
Yeah.
That's the
And
um
questions are the thing that's the magic bullet. A better question or a deeper question as a writer is ask yourself, who is this character? Why would they do this? What made them do that? And then the song can take, if you ask the question, why would this character do that? That changes the whole song because then you understand the character a little bit better. Or you ask the questions, and then maybe, like the neighborhood, you come up with uh, the
why
problem
did
is
she hit the liquor
systemic.
store?
It's not just a person that you walk past every day and you think this guy's a loser and uh, why doesn't he just live a better life? Maybe it has something to do with 25 years before and generational abuse and that sort of thing that you don't have to include in the song, but it informs how you understand your characters and projects maybe a more compassionate, well-rounded version of who they are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Some of the people, you think of the most uplifting scenes from like the movie Good Will Hunting, you
yeah,
know, some of the most uplifting scenes to figure out where the kid came from and why he thinks it's acceptable to sit in his position in life. It's because he grew up from home to home and his real father was putting cigarette butts out on him. You know what I mean? That's the
yeah. And
it.
and in that one scene, because I just watched that movie about 6 months ago again,
Okay.
but that one scene with Robin Williams where Will Hunting is talking about his dad used to hit him with whatever, and Robin Williams is disclosing he had a similar upbringing when his dad he says I used to prefer the belt or something da 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 da, right?
Right.
And so in that one short scene you get to understand both characters, their motivations, why Robin Williams' character could be trusted, and the little bit of vulnerability that starts to open up in Will Hunting, right?
Right.
And you can that's action packed. It really leverages in a short 5 minute scene. It gives all the context you need to help understand both characters a little bit better, and the sharing that goes on. They're both dropping the walls a little bit, and
Right.
that's where the magic happens, right? In the authenticity and the vulnerability.
And in a song, you have less than that to
Yeah,
get all your characters out.
yeah,
So you've got to really condense it.
yeah. And so you can do that with music and tempo and a chord that has a like a major chord is sounds sounds beautiful, but there's not a lot of tension in it. But you throw in a note that makes the chord very tense, that implies uh, it implies something, right?
Right.
So
I
you get the message out.
so speaking of Rob Williams, that's actually something that I've had on my list and I've been telling my wife about it. I wanted to curtail it. I have lyrics written for a song. A friend of mine passed away. Oh, geez, we're going on. We just we just passed 2 years. Geez, 20, no, 26 is coming up. He passed away on the 26th. He hung himself. And
Mm,
so it was one of those songs that like I've been wrestling with the idea of trying to write the song because it's one of those but it all bases from that question, why? Right? One of the five major questions, why? Why would somebody take their own life and things like that? And just to kind of, you know, that is the but it talks about something tough, right? You're never gonna write a song about suicide that's gonna top the charts. It's
mm.
you do it because it's for passion of the song, right? So it's
Yep. Did you happen to know why this person took their life? Was it clear?
his ex stopped over that evening. He worked for me for 6 months and he worked 7 days a week. He needed to take his mind off of things. He'd lost custody of his kids. He was trying to fight to get them back. He had a former drug problem that I was unaware of until after he had passed. And so he was like in recovery. And so I think to prevent a relapse and dealing with his ex, he ended up just going out to his back shed and hanging himself with a shoelace.
Mm.
And so it was one of those. Um, I still don't know. You know what I mean? Like I can understand the frame of mind that you're in, and you just want it
Yeah.
to all be over, but at the same time, you still can't ask yourself why because I still can't understand why, and maybe it's because of his current in the moment perspective. because like I was at the funeral and I got to see his, his 11-year-old and his 7-year-old standing there without a father now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was one of those, you look at the kids and you say, that's why. That's why not. That's why not. You know what I mean? But like in his frame of reference, he didn't see those kids that often. He didn't get to see the bright look on their face, you know what I mean? And say like, the rest of us got to see his kids with the dim light on their face because they lost their father. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So like that could be an interesting way to approach the song, right?
yeah,
Is from from your perspective as the person who saw both people or that saw
right,
him and the people that left behind who were mourning them, or how he, if only he had known, seen what you could see, that kind of thing.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So lots of ways to approach that.
yeah. Yeah, Robin Williams was a good intro into that portion of the because I always asked that. Robin Williams was my hero growing up. He was, he
Yeah.
was the genie in Aladdin. He was he was the 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 counselor in Goodwill Hunting, and
He was
just
Mork, for God's sakes.
Mork. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He had a long spanning career. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. I went down a rabbit hole for years watching all of his stuff prior to his death. Like it was funny. He passed away and I was watching The House of D, which was some like B class movie that no one ever saw, where he was just, in an asylum, and I think David Duchovny was in it.
Okay. I
Yeah, it
don't know
was
that
just,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, it was $1 at the rental store when they would rent movies.
Okay.
I'm dating myself now. My kids wouldn't even know what that is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I feel so. There was one more song I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Um, what what was your inspiration on "Free as a Sparrow"? That sounds. I'm asking you a lot about a lot of songs that are very like, I mean, dark, deep, not not your happy-go-lucky songs. But I guess those are the ones that speak to me. So,
Not a true story at all. Completely made up. So "Free as a Sparrow" is a song about uh, a girl, in this case, a young woman that wants to get out of her sort of one horse town and experience the world, and and the story reveals that she's hitchhiking, gets into a car. There's a sort of alluding to the fact that there's something strange about it, and she goes missing, and then her body's found still in the one horse town. She never got out. But the sparrow, uh, in biblical terms, it's the bird that has the ability to cross over
oh,
and
okay,
never die, type of thing. And
oh,
so
okay,
in the song, her spirit actually does break free. She does get to to get out of town and have a life. And yeah, so I think probably at the time there's here in Canada there's stories of murdered and missing Indigenous women. There's a ridiculous amount of Indigenous First Nations women that nobody knows where they are, and and there's probably not enough attention on finding what happened to them and where they are. So that probably played into when I was writing the song.
sorry, I timed it right for garbage day. So all the big diesel trucks are driving by. I don't know how much you can hear
Okay.
on your end, but
Not at all. Not at all.
yeah. So it was one of those. I didn't know if there was because Colin Hay was another big artist that I used to listen to too, the lead singer for Men at Work,
Yeah.
and so and he when went off and did his own solo stuff, he had like audio notes that would follow in some of his records that would describe each song and why he wrote them or whatever. And he wrote a song that you would never guess what it was about until afterwards, and it was something about like the Trayvon Martin shooting that occurred in the States. And it was one of those things. It's like, but he at least, you know what I mean. I Your song kind of resonated in a similar way with me, that like, man, he must have seen something on the news, or something got your mind. Maybe not an actual, it's probably a true story for somebody, right?
Hmm.
That that their daughter went missing, and they were trying to, just wanted to be that kid that got out of town.
Yeah.
But it was one of those. I didn't know if there was somebody, if there was a deeper, like, oh, I saw this, you know Natalie Holloway and Aruba story, and it just inspired this song. But
Is Natalie Holloway, is that the cruise ship and she got off and never got on again?
um, she was in Aruba, and that was the Jesus the Vandersloot. Yeah, he was Jordan Vandersloot. He went drinking with him and a buddy, and he met this girl at a bar. She was just spending the her vacation in Aruba,
Oh,
and
okay.
they never found her body. And years later, they tried to charge him, and then he got released. And then years later, he admitted to killing and disposing of the body. It was one of
Uh,
those. Yeah,
okay. Wow.
I don't know why this is sticking with me. And it was one of those. But there's a ton of tragedies out there, and I mean, what
There's
was
a, they
oops,
turned them
sorry.
all into episodes on Netflix and stuff now. Women love those things, eh?
Oh
Women
yeah.
love to they watch about women being abducted and my wife was watching one. I come to bed and she's watching this thing about a woman that was on a cruise ship and the cruise ship stops and she gets off and has never uh maybe heard of or seen of in the last 10 years. Like she might been put into human trafficking and stuff like that. And and I'm just coming in on this scene. I'm just minding my own business, going to bed. And I said, we should take a cruise sometime. And she said, "Oh yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?"
Mine doom scrolls TikTok all the time. And
Yeah.
so like I'll come into the kitchen and we've got more chickens than I would probably like. And so she's always doing creative things so we're not throwing eggs away. We
Yeah.
give eggs away, we'll try to sell them here or there. But for the most part, then she started doing this whole thing where she's making breakfast sandwiches. So we've got chest freezers full of breakfast sandwiches already made. She's pickling eggs.
Yeah.
And anytime I walk into my kitchen, there'll be always some kind of, you know, like Cops was in the 90s, right? It was always playing on somebody's television. This was there's always just some like how to get away with murder or to catch a murderer or
Yeah.
where is Betty Sue, so
Yeah.
the Robert Stack files.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So how so you have wait, how many you've big family? Irish, right? So it's
No, two kids. So
two
my
kids.
brother's got two daughters, a little younger than mine, and I've got two boys, 17 and 13.
Oh, okay. I say my
Yeah.
oldest just turned 18, so
And you got how many?
I have four.
Okay. No shortage of romance in your house.
No, no. There is not after four. There is quite a bit. There's a little bit more yelling than there
So we,
than
we grew
romance.
up with two, just me and my brother. So I was happy with two, and I found out on the way back from the hospital after our second one, I told my wife that I was probably just going to go get a vasectomy, thinking that this is I'm happy we got it, we got the two, and but she took that bad time to tell a woman who just had a baby, hormones are going crazy, that you're going for a vasectomy because she took that to mean that I didn't want any more and that sort of thing. So that became a big deal, a big small deal.
Mine's been trying to bribe me or lure me into a room by myself with a pair of scissors. So I'm one of those I'm opposed to people rewiring my panel box.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
I
I'm not sure that I would do it again. I don't know. I don't know.
right. I could be convinced not to have any more kids, but at the same time, I'm not convinced that science is there yet. I don't, you know what I mean? Like we don't understand what breads do to people. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then we keep
Yep.
modifying our food sources, and so to say that some doctor knows exactly how safe it is to start, like snipping
Don't poke
tubes
around
inside
in
of me.
there. Yes.
Yeah, don't break it. It seems to be functioning just fine. So, um, yeah, we had a large spread between the oldest and the youngest. So the oldest is my adopted daughter. So, but then the next one was 10 about to be 11, 11 about to be, or 10 about to be 9 about to be 10, and then 7 about to be 8. So we got a big spread in there. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
it's a lot of music lessons.
Yep. And then we got our kids into some stuff, and they don't really want to hear anything from me. They don't want any advice from me on how to play or anything like that. So we just make it available to them if they want. My oldest now, we got some drums, some V drums there. He's got an interest in that, and maybe it'll turn into something for him or not. But
Yeah, there you go. I
yeah,
That's how I started. I thought I started out as a drummer when I was a kid. I picked
did
him
it?
up, and yeah, lack of practice made me a very poor drummer. So
Yeah, you got to practice. That's for sure.
yeah. So I'd always get yelled at, and then I picked up the harmonica years later because I could take it with me out drinking with my friends.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
it's so portable.
it is. Yeah, I don't have to just pull a guitar out. And then you had somebody that would pull a guitar out. And
So I ended up when I was still living in Timmins. I worked in the mine in the summer times. So I was working underground, and so you're driving around. It's a big operation. So you could drive down. At the time, the mine was 5,000 feet deep, and I would work in the middle block in a tractor. They had a circular road that you, in addition to the elevator, a circular road, uh, spiral that you could drive two farm tractors side by side, but you couldn't stand up. You'd hit the roof. That's the ceiling, but it was wide enough to do that. So I would drive around and give everybody what they needed, uh, explosives or screens or rebars or whatever they needed to do their jobs. And
what did
the
they mine for?
uh, that particular mine, Timmins is a gold mining town, but there it was basically nickel and copper, and the
Okay.
silver had been pretty much taken out. But it was mostly silver, nickel, and copper, I guess, and when it first started. And so the lunchrooms that they have in the mine, when they just go build different rows, right? Uh, stopes and that sort of thing, and certain levels. And so I would go to every certain every couple hundred feet there'd be another level with a lunchroom in it, and it's just a cave carved out in the side of a level, and they'd put doors and electricity and air and water and all that. But it's basically just a cave with picnic tables in it. And so at 3 in the morning, I come in as a student, and I'm practicing harmonica, playing Old Susanna at 4,000 feet below the earth. And there was a longtime miner having a nap on the other picnic table. I didn't know he was there because he was just lying flat on the thing, and he didn't appreciate it. I got heckled at 4,000 feet. The guy just sat up and said, "Hey, student, shut the f up," and and I had to go. So
Yeah.
I learned how to play an instrument where most people never do.
Yeah. That's a very interesting story. They
Yeah.
that's I'm guessing that's where so Prospector song came from Timmins. Um, Working Man. You mentioned your dad would go visit his friend Mary. Like he had his lunch pail, things like that. Is that where Working Man came from?
Yep. My dad was always worked in the mines for with a short exception, but one mine or another, and uh, lunch pails were always around our house, and the whole idea of blue collar, very blue collar, tough times, hard times, waiting on an industry to do well or being beholden to somebody else, unlike a entrepreneur who makes their own breaks. My dad was a wage earner and hard worker and that sort of thing, and so he's influenced my songwriting for sure.
Yeah, that's yes. From an outsider, not ever working in mines or dealing with mines. I went to a mine once in Colorado. We went to visit, and they showed us where they would excavate and do the mining and things like that and blast rock. Um, and so that's the extent of my experience with it. And I don't really see you miss those. Learning how that process works gives you a nuance, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't give you the some of the nuances that living in a mining town comes with, right? Like it's like living in a farm town, right? If you have a poor year, grain prices go up because you can't produce the grains, but you know you have nothing to sell, and so like the whole town is hurting, and it kind of works in reverse from the production. It comes from the what is it, the demand side, right, of the spectrum where you 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 can't know what kind of nickel, how much nickel you need to produce. You just got to just get it out of the ground and try to get it to market, and that'll determine how well you're going to do this year.
Yeah, and when I was working at the mine, they had a devices to keep extending the levels. As it was called a jumbo. It had three big arms on it. They're probably probably 15 feet long, and they would drill holes probably uh, 15 feet. And so you could do three holes at a time, and it would take a whole shift for to drill the spectrum of holes, fill them with blasting powder, and then have a specially timed blasting cap so that they would blast from the inside out. So it would sound like one explosion, but if you could really slow it down, you'd hear pop, 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 and everything caves in itself, and it goes in 15 feet, and they go in and they take all that stuff out for that shift, and they do it again, right? And the whole system goes along. But yeah, to see that, it
How do
it's
you how do they reinforce it so that it doesn't cause like catastrophic failure and collapses in other portions of the mine, like upper levels?
every so that spiral I talked about, you
Yeah.
there was they would drill a 5 foot rebar, put a liquid cement, tube of liquid cement in there, drive the rebar in with a plate, and screw it in. And that was every in the ceiling, every that far for thousands of feet in a spiral, and then every level. So before you would go do it the next day, you would clear out everything, then you would do the ceiling for that part and put
And then just
screen as well.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, and you'd have to come in with a scaling bar. Like it gets dangerous, right? It, you tap the ceiling and you're listening for hollow spots. If it's hollow, that means there's a piece of loose, they call it. You find the seam that you can get in and you leverage it. And sometimes it's like the size of a kitchen table that would weigh like 800 pounds. Like boom, and then you secure what's not loose.
Gotcha. Now they see this because you always hear about mine collapses, right? Like mines and wells, right? Like Lassie never had to save, Timmy from the grocery store. Like
Yeah,
Timmy always got
yeah,
his ass stuck in a well. So that was
yeah, yeah, yeah. So lots of danger there, but uh, safety is a big deal there too. And it was a hard rock mine, not like coal mines. I think have cave-ins more than the hard rock mining, where it's
right,
the
because coal is just isn't it like coal is just pressure treated or pressurized like old plant material, trees and branches and stuff like
yeah,
that. It's just under a lot of heat and pressure over the years, and it turns into coal, and it kind of like petrifies it.
yeah. So
So
more susceptible, I think, to cave-ins and
yeah, I would surmise, yeah, it's just dead plant material instead of
yeah,
where you're talking rock is, sedimentary that's just been there longer, right? That's the
yeah, yep.
so,
But I'm glad
but
I did it. It was a great experience.
yeah, yeah, you got at least three songs that I can think of off the top of my head, and I don't have your discography like as you probably do. So
Yeah. Well, I probably wrote a few more that have nothing to do with mining, but I worked in a different part of the mine on surface in their metallurgical lab or not a lab, but a plant where they would get all the zinc from the mine, put it over into this thing, send it down in these troughs, immerse the zinc in a liquid, pour it into these essentially battery cells with anodes and cathodes, and then fire all this electricity through it, this liquid, which would force the zinc onto these plates, and then they pull out the plates and then scrape off sheets of zinc and then send it somewhere else. My job was to clean these cells out every other day, I guess, because they would have this sludge at the bottom of manganese, and so I had to do that. But my entire job, was to lift these dangling sheets out that would help get the electrolytes and stuff to get the zinc onto these plates. They'd be full of manganese, so I would just take a scraper and just scrape them, scrape the other side, spray them, do that 15 times, and lift them up with a hydraulic thing and put them back. That's a super boring job for 12 hours straight, and the money was good. It got me through university, but it was an awful job. And you'd wear earplugs, so if you plug your ears and you hum, you can hear yourself pretty good. And I would just come up with tunes the whole time, thinking, "I'm not always going to be here. I'm not always going to be here," and just think of songs. So yeah, there's probably a bunch of songs that I just learned in my head without anything.
they were just spawned in there, huh? They
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
as a motivation to do something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've worked those jobs before. I worked right after San Antonio. When I came back to New York, I worked the palletizer, giant machine that would just take trays of. They had a forge that would blow um, Welch's grape jars, but they were made out of plastic, so they would just they would blow these giant Welch's jelly jars, and they would slide on a conveyor belt. My job was to make sure that they got the proper amount went onto the pallet, and then we could load and then put another sheet down and then just keep going over and over again. And it was 8 to 12 hour shifts of just doing that. And then you get 20 high, and then you you send it off to the next section where it would wrap. And yeah, it's
More jelly
definitely
jars. We need more
more.
jelly jars.
Yeah, no, and there was always this old Polish lady who ran the forge because she was the engineer that would run the that they give everybody those titles of engineer, right? They
Yeah,
this lady operated the forge, and she would yell at you in Polish, some Polish dialect. She would yell at
yeah,
you, and you couldn't tell if she was speaking English or her native tongue, and she would yell at you for no reason, to the point that I'm a 23-year-old kid, like trying not to fall asleep on the palletizer. Now I think her name was Olga. Every one of them's name is Olga.
yeah,
I've never met a lady from the Ukraine or Russia or Poland that wasn't named Olga if they
yeah.
weren't a yeller, right? They
Yeah, that's
stereotypes
awesome.
come from somewhere, they
Yeah,
you try
100%.
not to use them, but
100%.
so um Dave, I've exhausted the questions that I've come up with for you. Um, I'd love to have you back on the show at some point in the future. Just
Yeah, love
because
to.
this was awesome. I got to meet what I would consider a hero.
Oh,
You,
thank you, man.
you,
I
your
appreciate it.
music's meant a lot to me. So it's
And
um,
this is a good podcast. You had lots of good questions, and it matters, I guess. I don't know, can't speak for everybody, but it's nice when people are actually listening to your stuff and have done a little research and stuff on what they're asking you. So it's pretty much
right. Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, not a problem. I don't want to act like a groupie coming up after the thing. Be like, "Sir, will you sign my thing?" And then just like, "What do you like about it?" Your songs. Like I just, I never want to be that guy. So, um, but yeah, no, this was excellent. And we're doing a Celtic. I sit on the Ancient Order of Hibernians here in my town in Western New York, and we're doing our. It's been, geez, almost a decade since we've had an Irish festival, and we've got new blood in, and people actually giving a crap, and we're actually hosting a huge Irish festival. So I will,
Cool.
yeah, in the end of August. So I will send you over an invitation. No pressure. Uh,
Okay.
so
That sounds like a
um,
great time.
yeah, yeah. So we'd love to have guests like yourself and your brother, and anybody else you'd like to have, and if you don't make it, you don't make it, but I at least have to offer extend an invite to a.
I'd love to go to an ancient Hibernian festival.
Yeah.
That's not an offer you get every day.
No, no, it's no, it's so yeah, they wanted to do it for like one day, and I'm like, one day? They're like, yeah, the festivals die down now. It's like, well, maybe, maybe, but I think they're planning their big punch. So
So you're going to
they
do two
want to.
days, like a Friday and a Saturday, or
I
a
think they're
Saturday,
going to do
Sunday?
a Friday and a Saturday. Yeah, they were always in competition with the Italians. The big Italian church in the area always had like a 3 to 4 day festival. They'd start on a Thursday night, and it would end at the end of the evening on a Sunday.
It's
And
hard to compete with the Italians, right? Because they got their pastas and all their delicious foods to support whatever they're doing.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone in our area, every one of the beer companies, the beer distributors, they were all owned by Italian guys.
Okay.
So they could get trucks of beer in droves.
Yeah.
So and they always had the Sinatras, right? They always had the big, the big, the who's the guy from The Godfather?
Don Corleone.
No, 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 his godson. I'm doing the hand gesture, right?
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
the Conciliary.
no, 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 no. It was at the beginning. He was the singer. It was Frankie.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
Frank
yeah, it
Sinatra,
was.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was. It wasn't. I don't think his name was Frank. It was like Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
they cut a head off for. They cut a horse's head
Yeah.
off for the guy.
I got to get that part. I got to get
I
that
gotta get
part.
that part. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, but yeah, no, they then both, it's our society in general. Most social cultures kind of have fallen by the wayside, right? We don't socialize in person anymore. So the Irish festivals kind of fell by the wayside, and the Italians took their festival down to like a day and a half. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of things are just kind of, but it also comes with like church attendance. There's a lot of these festivals are operated by bigger churches in the area, and church attendance is an all time low. So
Yeah. Same here too.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't see these big festivals happen, and with those festivals come better community, and you don't have the neighborhood, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's all connected. So
yeah.
everything's connected.
So, well, Dave, I appreciate you being on the show, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah, let me know. I'd love to share this conversation when it's ready and
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah, let me know.
for sure. I'll see. Yeah, I'll send over the links as soon as we're done. So,
Thanks, Kevin.
yeah, no problem. We'll see you next time.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yep.